Hello, good evening. Welcome to Earth and to an evening of time travel with Rhizome, an organization that has for 30 years been at the forefront of documenting and archiving the internet underground. As always, feel free to stick around later to join us for a drink. But first, let me hand you over to your guide for the evening. Please give it up for Rhizome's Executive Director, the one and only Mr. Michael Connor.
Thank you, Christopher. I'm not really your proper guide. I'm really just directing traffic tonight, but I'm so pleased to see you all. And this is a really unique space, a really unique set of people that we've brought together for you. And I'm really excited for the conversation that's going to unfold. Thank you for setting this up, Annika and Christopher and the Earth team. So we are here tonight to revisit Art Dirt, which was a web television program that took place beginning in 94 through 97 on the internet platform pseudo.com. It was hosted by artist GH Hovagimyan and Adrianne Wortzel, who are here with us tonight, as well as Robbin Murphy, who is not here tonight. And what I think is really important about these artists is that they are both people that sort of embody a relentless spirit of experimentation, now as much as in their earlier careers. And a testament to that, I think, will be the conversation tonight. But we have gotten to know GH because he's actually a member of the Rhizome Discord. He's always in there chatting away with us and telling us about different topics in relation to the past and present. And I think this is, something that we try to take seriously at Rhizome. We archive the past, but we're always trying to stay close to experimentation. And so at the point in time where Art Dirt began, GH was already had already been through several careers. He'd already been Gordon Matta Clark's friend and assistant back in the 70s, where he collaborated with Matta Clark on projects like Days End. And in the 80s, he ran the space Virtual Garrison, which was like kind of a hub for the punk and no wave scenes of New York. And then in the 90s, started to take up the internet, really embracing it as a medium, but also in the case of Art Dirt as a platform. And it was a really different time, but there are certain things that are really interesting in relation to the present, which is this is the moment when the New York City art world was really thinking about what it meant to embrace the internet. And everyone was thinking about like how the art world could kind of use the internet. I think fewer people were thinking about how the art world might be changed by the internet, but I think that was definitely a kind of core piece of the conversation. And if you were wandering around New York in those days, you might see flyers for something called Art Dirt on different posters where there would be different segments that were just full-on disc sessions. And that was kind of the culture we're going to delve into a bit tonight. Adrianne Wortzel, also a new media artist extraordinaire and someone who's been also in touch with Rhizome over quite a period of time now. But what I'm really pleased to sort of share in terms of Adrianne's practice as an artist is that we've kind of used this opportunity of this event to begin to accession one of Adrianne's works, The Electronic Chronicles, which was in 1995 a piece of like a web-based project with a book aspect that was created for her MFA at SVA. The Electronic Chronicles is actually a really interesting kind of metaphor for this moment. It was a site report with keystone documents detailing a future excavation of Manhat-10. The work reveals archaic, non-sequential observations and interpretations of modern architecture, language, and civilization. Links between stories and images in these electronic documents are utilized as absences, lapses, synapses, indicating what is inexpressible or interactively assumed by the viewer and or reader. So our true guide to tonight's exploration of the archaeological remains of Manhattan of the 1990s is Bree Griffin, who I'm going to welcome to the stage now. Bree has recently been visiting with GH in Pennsylvania, exploring VHS archives to pull together an incredible clip show. And why don't we just invite all three of our panelists to come up to the stage. Yeah. All right.
Very nice. Oh, great. That's an answer. Okay. Yes.
Hello. Oh, cool. It's working.
Hello.
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 Technology is working
Hello.
for us. A good sign. Thank you, Michael, for that introduction. I wanted to go through a quick mini introduction of myself. I wrote it down. In August of 2024, GH reached out to Rhizome regarding an interview series, Art Dirt, which Michael just talked about. Since then, 2 years later, we finally have spent some time to dig through those wonderful archives. Michael just mentioned I went to Pennsylvania. I was greeted by a Tupperware full of hundreds of cassette tapes, as well as whatever VHS tapes that GH was able to find, which was a combination of performance from you guys hanging out in the We Live in Public penthouse. One of those tapes is playing in the back. You won't be able to see because there are too many people in here, but it's playing. It's an 8-hour tape. They blast Autechre and like play chess. It's pretty cool. And then the other tapes, which I newly digitized yesterday in the library. I love that you're wearing a fire jacket because someone set the library on fire partially next to where I was digitizing. And I immediately ejected the tape and was evacuated from the library. Patiently waited to get back in so I could finish digitizing. And the result of that is what we'll end up showing you today. Most of these tapes are from 1996 to 1997. They feature a ton of artists that, for some reason, I have been creeping the files from Rhizome's website from 30 years ago and have become a bit obsessed with all of these artists that were like, why should we use a computer to make art? Obviously, because we use computers for everything else. A lot of people who, like me, are very obsessed with being on their computer, and as a result of that, start thinking in computer ways. So yeah. I'm very excited to show you guys clips. We can cue up the first one. We'll have Author over here cueing clips for us. I wanted to do it this way because it felt like the videos themselves, where there was a guy in the studio cueing video clips. So we'll do the intro video to start off. Oh yeah, you guys will need to see the videos.
Turn it up.
Turn up the volume a little bit,
There
please.
you are, my dear. Relax. Are you comfy? You'll be pleased to know the Art Dirt is coming to you. Next on the Pseudo Radio Network with Robbin Murphy, Adrianne Wortzel, and the latest hot artists to grace the web. Pseudo GH will massage you with the Art Dirt, the Art Top, the Art Mind, and the Art Trash. Next on the Pseudo Radio Network.
There you go.
Yeah.
We never did any of that.
I mean, that clip exists online, sort of, via the Internet Archive in a really, really tiny, blurry version of it. So this is the highest res version that exists, freshly copied from the VHS. And it features, I think, clips from your website, an art piece that you were showing me in your studio. But yeah, how does it feel to see it?
Yeah, we sort of gave, I'm sorry. Sorry. They asked me to give them some stuff, so I pointed them to my website. And they said, well, what do you want to do? And I had another friend, a woman actually, who was a performance artist. And I said, look, why don't you do a voiceover? Because she's trying to break into voiceover anyway. And I said, do this. do like a stripper, boom, 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 music, which actually is a reference to my parents' generation, which, and then do this kind of seductive voice, which was another media pointer, but it's absurd, because you're on the internet. It has nothing to do with stripper. There's video, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing. The whole thing was it was pseudo because the whole thing was made up. Anyway.
Yeah, I was shocked the first time Michael sent me one of the audio clips that Josh Harris had emailed over.
Yeah.
And as soon as I pressed play, I was like, why is this so sexy? It like threw me off guard. But now it's like I've listened to so many of the tapes, I've come to love this voice. Thank you to your friend, the aspiring voice actor at the time.
It's really terrible because I can't remember her name, but I mean, it's 30 years ago. And a lot of drugs. But anyway.
Oof, oof. We won't talk about that part. Well, maybe later, maybe later.
Okay.
I mean, so another aspect of this is it's wild to watch a video from 30 years ago, but a part of this intro was the precursor to a conversation that you guys would have with invited guests. And I don't know the number, but it was at least 100, 200 or so people, not only from the New York scene, but around the world. Adrianne was just telling me that she had invited guests from Russia. There were people from the UK. There was part of a podcast in French. GH speaks French, I just learned. But yeah, there was such a diverse range of people that were on the podcast, from artists to gallerists to educators. And I guess I'm curious, how did you guys go about inviting people to join on the show?
Adrianne was really kind of marvelous with that because she had a different network from me. I mean, we had a common network because we were both involved in Art Net Web, which was one of these core. First, it was experimental internet software something, which we were invited by Remo Campopiano to be in. It was Adrianne, me, and Robbin Murphy. It was a social sculpture, is what I would say, which was essentially happening. Interesting, like Mark Tribe, who started Rhizome, we had a storefront in Soho on Broome Street, and it was our experimental art storefront with, little cubicles or whatever. And Mark came walking in, fresh from doing his student. He was doing some sort of like exchange student in Germany. In Germany, they had at that point, it was all BBS, and they were very slow modems. And so people did a lot of kind of like theoretical discussions on BBSs. And there was one called Net Time. And I think that Mark had joined that. And then that inspired him to start Rhizome. So Rhizome essentially was an email list of theoretical discussions. So then Mark walked into our storefront and said, "Hi, I'm Mark Tribe. I've got this thing called Rhizome." We said,
Nice.
We said, okay. I mean, and we invited him onto the show, obviously, and he talked about it. But I mean, that's about how it would happen. Then Adrianne would meet different people from academic conferences or.
Actually, yeah, I was trotting around the world recruiting, and I would call it GH and say, I got an 800-seat theater in Rotterdam, and I got Stellark, and I've got, Ken Feingold, and like, let's go, And I would dive into these things with, the video was See You, See Me. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it, but See You, See Me came out of a university, and it was the first web video conferencing app. And it was terrible,
Thank you, Cornell.
I have a friend, Heather Wagner, who always goes around. Remember on the show, she did this? Yeah. she imitates see me, like because and it looked like
It's like
the
buffering
VHS,
nowadays, it's
yeah.
like, it was like Max Headroom. Remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You guys know Max Headroom, right?
We're like not nostalgic. We're being like, as if we were old people being nostalgic. But
Yes, the good old days.
yeah, the good old days.
On one of the tapes, it was a See You See Me like screen recording, and they were 0.2 frames per second.
Yeah, that was high speed in those days. I mean,
Apparently.
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was great because we had everybody in New York on, and then we had everybody coming through New York on, and then we had the people from Lapland where I had a residency. Remember that?
That's right.
And the mosquito, you couldn't see the people because of the mosquitoes.
That's right.
But
There was that whole thing, and then remember I think the Rhizome Mark organized some sort of like ocean trip up there in the north between the two, like in the North Sea between like I think it was like Lapland and someplace I don't know. But
media artists, so you see all of us seeking out the Arctic Circle, and it was a line in a parking lot. And everyone whipped out their cameras and was jumping over the line back and forth. I actually should find the footage because it's very
Please.
funny.
oh no,
Yeah.
that's really timely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I thought it was the greatest. Thank you for inviting me to co-host because I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, like to find all these people. And as you said, from education, from actually, being an artist, from tech, from everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was always a challenge, and we had fun.
That's the thing. Well, the thing that I always found interesting was that if you talk about social sculpture, one of the things that happens is that when you get a bunch of artists around and they're talking about their work or what they're interested in, then things begin to happen. And people, it's just sort of like a sharing of ideas, but you begin to go, oh yeah, I can think about things in this way or that way, or you can just enjoy someone who's talking about their work. And it kind of it's nice.
And we evolved too, because
Yeah.
we were just audio. And then I think, tell me if I'm wrong, one day Josh said we were going to have video. We all looked at each other. We couldn't like eat while we, pick our nose. We couldn't like do anything because suddenly we were going to be visible to the entire.
Oh, but they have the
world.
videotapes. I have 5 tapes.
You do?
I gave,
Yes.
I gave them the tapes they digitized.
It's like, what are we
Oh,
going to
don't worry,
do?
you look great.
Yeah, right, right.
Well, that's a nice segue to the next section. We are going to be watching a series of 3 heavily edited montage videos of me watching and listening to as many shows as I could and finding kind of like overarching thematic bubbles. But of course, it's, kind of everywhere, and we'll just watch them and react as we see fit. So yeah, do you want to cue up this next video? We'll have to.
Your mind is an illusion. It is a symbol in a dream of information. Release your mind to release your mind to release your mind to release your mind. No.
Bozo critic from the New York Times. Yeah, with that thing that he said, I thought that was pretty thin,
That's
of him to have said that what most media artists who are using the net are just hiding behind the technology or to pass off bad art or something to that effect.
Yeah.
That was pretty but we need people like that because years from now everybody will laugh at his dumbass and then it'll be a fun thing.
Right.
Throughout the history of art, innovation has typically been met with initial resistance, due in part to a quasi-elitist rejection of any technology that becomes a force in mass media. Well, I think that says it all. I don't want to say too much more about resistance.
Digital art and technology, the traditional art world feels very alienated from computing and technology because they don't understand it.
Tell me about it.
And so, as a publication, we have to position ourselves not outside of the art world, but within the art world.
It's a great place to have a party for a web launch, and some patrons were a little bit confused about it, like, well, how long's it showing, and you know, how long's it going to be up? And I went, well, forever.
I think these underground groups create their own companies because they control the means of production a lot more than someone who say has to kowtow to a gallery, which sort of controls the ideological framework around which the work is looked at. When you grab the bull by the horns, you do it yourself. It is also like you learn in the process. It's an interactive, creative process because you're forced to actually communicate with an audience.
Well, you know, when I was creating the project, I had no strategy for what I wanted except to just put it on the web because with the advent of Alt-X in late '93 and our audience growing pretty big over the course of the last, 3 or 4 years, I knew that there would be a built-in audience for the project. Young cats from London who were telling me that in their dance club late at night, as they're doing these randomly sampled mixes and whatnot, that they're projecting Grammatron from the web in the dance space as a kind of part of the environment.
The traditional gallery structure now is kind of being broken down in the sense that if you have your own website, you have a worldwide audience, which is tremendous for artists. I think it's one of the best things that's ever happened. There's no filtering process going on.
In other words, like what I do personally, but a lot of other artists I know that are on the web, do it because it goes around corporate culture. And I consider art galleries and museums and everything else as corporate as RCA Record.
A nice place to end that montage on. So I think there are a few different bubbles that appear in this little edit. Primarily, one that I still think about is the relationship between artists and galleries, and artists realizing that once they put something online, they had kind of a new option to explore for discovering an audience. Do either of you have something to say about this?
What? No.
Websites.
Yeah.
Big stuff on
I can tell my story. It's very short, which is that I was a graduate student at 51 at SVA Computer Arts for an MFA. Bruce Wands was actually our chair, and
Now I'm trying to figure out if I opened it yet.
no, don't be silly. So we all stood around this ancient Mac, which was not ancient then, and the first browser was Lynx, and it was a text browser. And we all said, look, if you click on that word, you go there, and that set me off completely to
Absolute magic.
It was magic. And then there was the first browser. So what I'm trying to say is it grew as the technology grew, because at that point you could do HTML, you could write HTML, but you couldn't even center things yet.
That was great.
And
that was the best part.
That was, I know, because when you got, I did the first websites for MoMA as a job, right?
Okay.
And for the 5 of them for the Guggenheim, which, by the way, all these years, those Guggenheim websites are sitting on my server.
And you haven't been charging rent?
That's
send them a back bill. Right. Come on.
Well, I was paid to do it, and that was the other thing. Matthew Drutt, who was a curator at the Guggenheim, asked me to do these websites, and the first one was abstraction something or other, and it had a little paragraph where it said, this installation was made possible by Philip Morris. And he had a struggle to get money because they didn't know what a website was, right?
Yeah.
So I put in, and they wouldn't give a dime for the website. Because I was sure nobody would look at it.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Except, is there an
Except
except
Matthew. Matthew saw it and he made me take it out. But imagine,
censorship.
Yeah,
Where he hits the web
right.
early.
But imagine you had that liberty then of doing anything.
Oh yeah.
Not only for the web, but I used to be at home and I'd log into SVA and I'd want to see who's there.
That's right.
And someone was from California was fixing the SDI machines, and he was in the same system. And all of a sudden, they were watching the screen. It said, "Who the fuck is Adrian?" Because it was like Tron, you know.
Exactly,
You
yeah,
could
yeah.
just could just move. There were very few protocols for inhibiting you from doing anything.
Right, right.
Which also led to avatars, you know, which led to pretending you were someone else.
Yeah. Now you were involved in multi-user Dungeons and Dragons and
Moose, yeah.
and
Moo.
Moose, multi
Moo.
Muds, Moose, and
Moose, object-oriented multi-user dungeons. Moose were text-based second worlds. They were text-based, and they were just so marvelous because they were text-based, because you could make anything very easily. You know, it wasn't really coding, it was the scripting. So you could make any world, and you could also lock your world, or, I mean, I went around stealing things out of other people's worlds and then they'd learn to lock their rooms, you know. But so...
the cat burglar.
Yeah, it was
She
really,
looks sweet, but
yeah, right. So Moose were a great place to do theater, and actually I got the plain text players.
Yeah, that was Heather Wagner.
Heather and
Was it Tennessee Rice Dixon? Was that who it was?
No, she was on our show though.
Yeah, she was, but I thought she was one of those mood.
She may have been, but not with us. We
CD-ROMs.
We did plays, and when I was in Finland, I constructed a moo based on the Kalevala. I also tried to do all of Chaucer's tales.
Yeah.
I didn't get very far. It was like, but
you were on the road.
Yeah, they were fabulous because it was so easy to construct things if it's just text.
Yeah.
You know, in other words, you went into a space and it'll say you are in the garden. And whatever that person created for their garden, you would see it. It would say, you see, you know, roses or whatever. And so it was a way to very, very quickly, and it evolved. So talk about social.
Exactly.
Somebody, unfortunately, got raped in a moo, and it became this huge thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely, but I couldn't understand it. I was a little bit too esoteric for me.
Anyway, the point is that it was a pretty wonderful way to build worlds and assume characters. And that's actually how I eventually got into robotics, because I decided to make real avatars, which is very funny because robots aren't real avatars. They're not real, and I wanted them to come out of the moon, come out of the virtual world into physical presence. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
And very well, and thoroughly too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love that.
GH, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For you, anything.
This is like partially a reunion event for these two, which I
Yeah.
think is really exciting to watch
We
this
haven't
in
seen
real
each other
time.
since then, I think.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Should
Next
we?
question, whatever.
Should we cue up the next clip, maybe?
Next clip.
From 6 to 7.
Think for yourself, 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 think for yourself.
So what happens is that, people who are like property freaks, they don't get it. It's like they don't understand. Like information is now free, man. It's just like
you can't own it anymore.
no, and it's all incidental. It's all with those incidents. It's not like, who cares about Miss America? We care about like one artist's perception of looking at the tape and saying, that's the moment, right? And it fits with the music. It's something different.
It's like you're pushing into this a new way of assembling knowledge, and it's like a new way of being human and expressing yourself.
I think also it's really to do with like expressing things through images, text, fiction, analysis, rather than just saying
Multimedia.
Or rather than saying there's one kind of window to look through that can tell you things.
The internet is kind of making everyone rethink all that.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so easy to repurpose everything.
Right.
And yeah, I mean it's amazing. It's really it sounds very cheesy, but it's really a great time to be alive.
They asked me to go in Sherry's directory and remove his pages, right? And he's paying for this 5 megabytes on the server. My position is no way. You know, I mean, this is not my job. You know, if you want to, I'm not your police. I'm not.
Have they threatened you with anything tangible yet?
No, but they said answer to us within 5 days. You know, and whether these pages have been removed. And they threatened further legal action. I mean, the letter is right here. I can read it to you if you want to.
It really depends upon how many other people really want to pursue this, because it's a larger issue. I mean, where corporate rights are and artistic rights are, you know.
But because people charge money because they'll charge money to have people come in and see it, they run into copyright troubles. You know, I mean, they may get sued by the people who I took the stuff from, whereas if I just distribute it, I'm safer.
Because a lot of the supporters are big multimedia or entertainment conglomerates, they are the ones behind pushing the copyright law that's in Congress right now and the revisions. They are desperate to make sure they retain control of copyright.
So anyway, like back to what I was saying.
Right.
Ultimately, it's about information. I was telling these guys, I said, listen, it's not entertainment. It's not hot. Matter of fact, digital culture is cyber cool. I mean, it's super cool. I mean, it's cooled down to absolute zero. Right. I mean, it's absolute zero. It's all information. Right. There's the only thing is the closer that you approach a perfection of absolute zero, that's the new aesthetic. And if you don't understand it, it doesn't matter. Right. Then for some reason you have a problem, because that's really what's happening. You know. So I mean, I understand what you're doing.
Thank you.
But I'm weird.
You have one of those extra fucked up genes.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time online, you know. It's like, I mean, the only time I ever get off the line is to run over here and do this program, and then I go back online, you know.
Did you come outside for this program?
Yeah. Oh, I would do all these residents, like I would go to the south of France to do a residency. Beautiful south of France, right? I wouldn't see the sun. We'd be down in the basement, like looking at computer, you know, like that was it. And people would say, how would South France? I'd say, I don't know. You know that, right?
Wow.
The issues that they were talking about was actually kind of interesting. Is the early internet, everybody was getting sued by these corporations, you know, like even ArtNet Web, which was where we had that first, was originally called ArtNet. And it was a little, Remo got some software, experimental software, and he invited artists because he wanted to set up a kind of experimental collaborative studio, and you could make videos, and then people could access it online and all this. So anyway, what happened in the meantime is some big auction houses in Europe or something like that decided that they were going to use the internet to set up, like, you know, reading the art markets and quantifying it. And, you know, they had like some like $10 million. And, you know, so they got their name and they copyrighted it. And the name they chose was ArtNet. So little Remo and our little like artists collaborated. All of a sudden we're getting these like, cease and desist. You cannot use this name. We're going to sue your ass all over the place. And poor Remo, he didn't know what to do, but he figured it out. He said, he kept on talking to them and this and that. He said, look, you know, we're just a little web thing. We'll change it to ArtNet Web. And finally it worked, so. But, you know, ultimately what happens with that is the telling tale is that being like in the major normal art scene where the markets are run everything, they could not give a shit less about what people were doing on the internet. Okay? They didn't support it, nothing. They had no idea what was going on. The only thing they were trying to do was to extend their market into the information sphere, which they did, and it still exists, but it has really nothing to do with experimental art. Okay? In other words, I have other thing that also happened to me, which was with Wolfgang. Up there is Wolfgang Stahler. He'd had like The Thing, Rhizome, ArtNet Web. I think those were the core kind of artist-run website places. And I had a piece called Barbie and Ken Politically Correct, which used Barbie dolls, black Ken dolls, and long story. But anyway, he gets a letter from Mattel for copyright infringement, because I took these photographs of Barbie and Ken dolls and put them in vignettes, and I made this like little kind of client pull animation thing. All of a sudden he's like, "What are these guys doing?" They're like sending me.
You were much
Well, they were fighting against the Nazi Ken dolls, or the Nazi GI Joe dolls, right?
The GI Joe dolls with Nazi swastikas on their arms.
Mattel was like, no.
It was also, everybody's idea of what porn was.
Right.
Because at SVA, one of the students had a thesis project with infants with adult genitalia.
Yeah.
And what happened? It crossed the state line.
Oh.
Because somebody at
It
a
crossed the
Catholic...
state line because it was on the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, you could see the troops of lawyers coming in to visit the president of SVA. And eventually she backed down. She took, she changed her project, which was a shame because we were all supporting her. But that idea of crossing state lines virtually, right?
The client pull animation, which is really kind of interesting. It's so this other guy, Ricardo Dominguez and Brett Stahlbaum, they did this thing. Like I said, client pull with I was using Barbie and Ken. Well, they used it. They wrote this code, and Ricardo was demonstrating for the Zapatistas in southern Mexico. So basically, what they did was they wrote this code, which was a denial of service code. Which basically what you do is you load it onto your browser, and what it does is it automatically has a targets like a website. So in this case, they were targeting the Mexican embassy's webpage. And so essentially what happened was that they took down the webpage, right?
Right.
And then Ricardo was calling this electronic disturbance theater or something.
That's right.
But the thing that was really funny was that the CIA or the NSA were totally freaked out about it. They invited him down to Washington, D.C. to talk about this. When he was
Oh, that I didn't know that.
Yes. And he said, he went down there in front of all these spooks and he was giving him an art lecture. Like, you see this?
Oh, I love it. Was that recorded? Was that recorded ever?
I don't know. You have to ask Ricardo. I mean,
That'd be great.
But it was absolutely hilarious because he said, yeah, I was like, all these CIA guys, and I'm talking about net art, and what we were doing, and they were like, really, can you use it for war? And it was like, yeah, you see. Yeah, it's true.
Well, there was a lot of political action on the internet at that point. I mean, there's also Dow Chemical, which also got a lovely letter from Dow regarding a takedown. But yeah, it's interesting for an era that suddenly exposed the population of people to a lot of media and images. Of course, we would want to make art out of all of those things, but then they weren't ready for that part.
No, they basically. I don't know what else to say.
I just want to say that Mattel is ubiquitous. We could make a video or a book about everyone who had that experience with Mattel. I had a residency at I-Beam, and we were I was making an army of Elmos and figuring out how to sync them. Everyone on the internet was trying to sync them, and couldn't do it. And we figured it out. And I got so excited, I called Mattel.
That's what I did.
You did it too? And I'm telling
You told the lawyers directly?
I'm telling the receptionist, oh, listen, I have to talk to somebody. We did this fabulous thing. We just, took out the circuit boards and put it in blah, blah, and the next, she says, oh, yes, I'll connect you. And then it was the legal department. And I just hung up. And I was so disappointed.
We could have weaponized.
Those guys who were doing the Barbie Liberation Front, remember that?
Oh, no.
They switched G.I. Joe voice modules and Barbies. And so these kids would get these Barbie dolls and be, and now we're going to march down the road. And G.I. Joes would go, and where is my new hairdo?
That sounds amazing.
That's the same thing. Those guys like, oh no, it's the other guy.
You guys should make a new Barbie movie, it sounds like. It's perfect timing. I think now is a great time to cue the next clip.
Okay.
That we would?
We're cueing a new clip.
Online than ever before, and more than ever before, these consumers are turning to Big Yellow when they want information on products and services. Big Yellow is the new interactive Yellow Pages at www.bigyellow.com. With more consumer visits every day, Big Yellow is the place in cyberspace that your business needs to be to stay ahead of the competition. Big Yellow gives your business the power to merchandise online, the power to provide comprehensive information over the internet, and the power to use electronic messaging to target consumers. If you want to bring your business into the digital age, check out www.bigyellow.com. That's www.bigyellow.com. Shouldn't your business be there when consumers come looking?
A lot of artists who kind of emerged in the 20s and 30s, in the early 90s, there was no place to get a foothold in Manhattan's culture. I don't know what it was like in London for you guys, but also there's a raging recession going on, so there was no money, there was just no place to really attach ourselves emotionally or financially.
By the way, the amount of money that those asshole Republicans are spending in investigating, Clinton, could cover all of the cuts for the National Endowment, the arts budget for the country of France, and all of the social welfare cuts that they have been proposing while they're sitting there using the money for their own political ends, okay?
Yeah, and it seems like, at least for the time being, there's all this talk about the rapid commercialization of the web and how it's just not the way that it was 3 or 4 years ago. Well, of course, it's changed a lot, but it's there are still Grammatrons out there. There's pseudo.com stuff out there. Danny's stuff is out there, and we're finding audiences for it.
What's occurring, the content of the ideas that you have, that you're creating, this world you're creating, dictates a certain form, which is not necessarily at this point a commercially viable form, right? Yeah. Or it clashes with the existing commercially viable form, right? Or it's trying to be suppressed by the existing commercially viable form, right? So that's what's really kind of happening in all this dynamic.
We'll have an artist in residence program, and people can actually come in and make new works of art and experiment. And the only thing that makes this possible is that we've entered into relationships with corporations for sponsorship that isn't just about money anymore. I mean, they're providing expertise and they're providing technology, and it's really the kind of partnerships that museums are going to have to make if they're going to have this kind of exhibition program, because the expenses involved in putting together these projects are astronomical.
There's a movement towards community, but in a different manifestation.
It's this community work. I'm very suspicious of it because a lot of corporations are talking about this.
I'm sorry.
In terms of how can we marketing people?
Yeah.
All these corporate marketing people. All
like Echo, NYC.com?
Community. How can we market to community? This is what the web is about, and it is about. We can target communities. Now let's build these community servers. I mean, we're doing it also for our community, but it's a very double-edged kind of sword here.
Interesting. You're with Rhizome? Mm-hmm. My favorite, Rhizome, HTTP://RHIZOME.com. We love Rhizome.
As we all know, the web entities need ways to make money. Without ways to make money, the web entities die or become part of larger conglomerates that make their content pasty. So we are going to start a new business called Stock Objects, which is a new media stock library. And it'll be the first of its kind, largest of its kind, and the most the highest quality new media stock library.
Information, you know, icons, symbols, mythos, right? This is the information environment. They're not tied to property anymore.
Right.
It's good. I know where you come from, man.
Right.
But now we have to go and sell some product. So, which I love doing, by the way. Just Jeff, our audio engineer, is going to, yes, he's going to do it. He's going to put on a commercial and he's going to.
Do you remember the commercial break? The commercial break?
They
That
make
was-
these fake commercials
Yeah.
for stuff that didn't exist, or they would make commercials about other pseudo programs. And that one that we heard over there was for the yellow, the web yellow pages, because the yellow pages are trying to figure out like how to access. Because you know what happened was that France had an internet system before us, but it was basically their yellow pages. It had yellow pages and train schedules, free terminals to everybody, and had a telephone. And you know it was called, what was it called? I forget. Minitel, right? Yeah. But anyway, commercialization. What I did, a lot of people did, but I did was I would do residencies, so I could make a project. You did that as well,
I
right?
did that a lot. I did a lot.
Yeah, you
yeah.
go and you make a project, digital residency, and you make the project, and then you do a presentation, and you then the project is yours, obviously. But
I was always trying to bring them back to pseudo, right? I was always saying, but we could, you know.
I know it's like,
Yeah.
don't worry, your time has come. But that's the way we monetize as far as any digital artist that I knew, which, you know, you could build projects, but it's an extension of installation art. You know, you can do websites, but it's only one part of the information sphere. And then there's social media, which is, you know, there's kind of it's almost like a dumbing down of the kind of social dynamic that was occurring then, because it is commercialized, you know. So the thing that I liked is the Discord channel that is in Rhizome. Now, everybody, you should all log on Rhizome's Discord, you know, become a member, go there and start talking to each other. It's a lot of fun.
I mean,
and I won't be there, believe me.
One of the clips from this montage was Rhizome's tried to start a company at one point before it was a nonprofit, but after they realized they couldn't sell advertisements to the 1,000 or so theorists that were talking about media art online. Yeah, everyone was trying to experiment with how to make money and survive. They said also in that quote, you had to do this because otherwise someone would control the content you make and turn it pasty. So I think that notion of trying to balance survival, the finances of everything, and also trying to do the art you want to do without any sort of filtering or like, another part of this is, I forget his name, the curator that was at the Guggenheim at the time.
Matthew Drutt.
He was talking about working with corporations and technology companies as the only option for them to present multimedia art in person, because the technology itself was all the budget they had to present an installation. So it's really interesting to me seeing this kind of like give and take or balance of survival in this case.
Yeah, I don't know if I can address that, but there was a show called Data Dynamics, which was at the Whitney in 2001. And it's taking forever for museums, even galleries, to catch up, because I think when we got there to install, I think there was a dial-up. And the curator was wonderful, Chris John Paul. And, soon we were some up to speed. In my case, they didn't want the robot going into the elevator and also there was a staircase leading off that floor where people would it was a telerobot. So you could operate its locomotion, its speech, text to speech, and the pan, tilt, and zoom of its camera remotely. So logging on in the middle of the night when they're cleaning the museum and saying you missed a spot was one of my favorite things to do. Really mean. But my point was that then there was the issue of it was just so hard for them to conceptualize what was going on because, not Chris John, but I mean the administration, because they said, listen, what if somebody says obscenities through the robot, And I actually said, you cannot control. I mean, that's an issue. You cannot control. You hear that and you're a museum administrator. You cannot control. It's like, suicide or something.
Right.
So they said, no, we can't have that. Can't you put a button on it that, filters out obscenities? I don't know if anybody
On
here
dial-up?
So I put no, they had fixed it by then. We had a T1 line, which I had from a friend across the street who works in a cafe. I had it at home. I had so much company, you can imagine. But what was I talking about? I got off track.
Robot.
The robot. Oh, yeah. So people understood the robot could be it was a $50,000 robot, and of course it hardly did anything then, but people understood if you sent it towards the staircase, it would be destroyed. Everybody was going, I want to kill myself, and sending the robot. Yeah. So we had a big meeting, and we had to put a guard there. A physical human God.
Not one step further, robot.
What?
Not one step further, robot.
Yeah, right. Stop. I had installed stuff in the ceiling that was supposed to work with the code. In fact, it was 50 discs I painted. And I thought, 50 of my paintings are at the Whitney. They were embedded between the lights, but they weren't working, which was how we did everything, Art Dirt too, by the seat of our pants.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I did I was working with synth voices, speaking of robots and that sort of thing. And then I did a different sort of thing where we took, Peter Sinclair and I, sound artist in Marseille, we took radio-controlled cars. We took laptops.
Yeah.
We put them on the radio-controlled cars. So we were doing DIY robots, right? And we were using speech to text and text to speech.
Right.
And I would write scripts for the computers to, it was like a play. It's called a soap opera for laptops.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then I would program all the synth voices so they could sing.
Mm-hmm.
And since it was using speech recognition, one robot would say something, and then the other one would hear it, and they would go and do something like sing or, respond or go off on a tangent for
They're
something.
friends.
What?
They're friends.
Yeah, they were all friends.
Oh.
We used to hang out, So, but that was all like a different DIY hacker culture sort of thing. It's interesting because we had that similar attitude, but going at it from different ideas. Because the notion basically is, your relationship as a person to something projected into a machine, and what that means and what the machine does to you, and also how it connects us all together in some way or in some manner, and then how that affects the whole of society in terms of, like if you threw a pebble in a pond.
And the penchant for anthropomorphizing.
There you go. There you go.
And, in human nature.
Yes.
I mean, even I was doing it. I get scared the hell out of myself, and for a roaming robot, because I had them also in other cities in the streets, people really related to it like it was a long lost relative. You know, I mean, I thought I would walk around saying these robots do nothing. I said these robots are puppets. So the idea of succumbing to a puppet.
I think we're reaching the end of our time
Okay,
here.
time.
Oh.
That's it. It's all over.
Okay.
But
We're not.
oh,
We're not.
Oh?
Not quite over.
Okay.
Or should we introduce the next clip, the last clip?
Oh,
yeah.
more clips.
All right, I'm going to
no,
interject briefly.
that was my last clip.
Oh well.
I'm out of clips.
Well, there is one more, but what we've seen so far, out of clips of Art Dirt, but what we've seen so far is a really kind of fascinating and touching glimpse of a moment where artists were prototyping new ways of living, of making work, of distributing their work, really kind of exploring the creative possibilities of this new technological context that was opening up, and also understanding, as society was understanding, the kind of limitations of that context. In particular, there was an alternative that was emerging to a gallery system that they felt was no longer serving them, and they were navigating kind of new visibility for the underground and the public sphere. And as all of this was happening for us, there was another conversation going on about money and how money intersected with all of this: ownership, property, and the platform. And in the next part of the conversation, we're going to shift to the wider context of the .com world and introduce one of the most fascinating characters of that moment, Josh Harris, who's going to be joining us via teleconference from the desert. And many of you will be familiar with Josh Harris. He was the founder of pseudo.com back in 93, 94, the internet television broadcast network that was a true symbol of the .com moment in New York City. Pseudo was really legendary for its hedonistic and kind of elaborate parties, but it was perhaps most notable as a broadcast network for the experiment Quiet, We Live in Public, which started towards the end of 1999 on the eve of Y2K, where 150 artists were housed in a kind of capsule hotel and put on sort of 24-hour live stream in whatever room they went into in the space. That experiment then later inspired Harris and his girlfriend to do a similar experiment that became the basis of a famous 2009 documentary, We Live in Public. And Josh, I think you might be watching the live stream. It's time to move over to Zoom. We're going to be chatting. Bree's done an amazing job of I think we have, as Josh is getting settled in, I think we have some clips of Josh to play. Okay, should we play the Josh clips? A better intro than I can offer. And then hopefully Josh is getting settled in. I haven't heard any emails from him lately.
Yeah. When I first got here to rent the space, the building was
You have people.
Greetings. He may be the father of cyberspace, but science fiction writer William Gibson is not a wired man.
I don't have a modem or an email address.
He doesn't even surf the net.
I don't have time to check it out. I look over people's shoulders. I give it a glance.
when I first got here to rent the space. When I first got here to rent the space. When I first got here to rent the space, the building was essentially boarded up. Before Soho was Soho. Sorry about that, Einhorn. You could have had the space for a song. Actually, at the time, everyone thought I was nuts because I was paying so much per square foot. Since then, the place has probably quadrupled in value in terms of, Soho becoming little things like having the clock and the monitors and professional lighting and the grid and the curtain system, professional cameras, etc., etc. It's real. It's real. So this is where I do the editing lessons. I come in here about 3 nights a week and show everyone how to edit video, right? So I learned. Yeah. See?
It's a great teacher too.
See? It's one of my star pupils.
Josh, the man.
Well, yeah, it's like he's like the fifth best guy. We have cigarettes. Oh, you can't. You gotta be kidding. Hard. So I've been training Steve on how to do graphical design for several years now. He's almost there. And trying to work with him on our strict no smoking policy. Been reasonably successful. Tony,
What does she do?
she's the executive assistant.
To Mr. Josh is now going to watch, we're going to watch Josh do some real work.
About $1,200.
Well, as soon as I get it.
Little Maurice. That's the company. He's the company mascot. It's Maurice Jr. Maurice Sr. was around, I guess, from 1995 to 1997. Turned out that Maurice Sr. was actually a girl Maurice. That's Myrtle. Myrtle's the one. She's the one I had with the. Myrtle's, it's lunchtime for Myrtle.
We're going to clean them up and be ready to go. It'll be the first internet pop star.
Sir? Oh.
The switchover is happening, but Josh is here. Hi, Josh. I guess we shouldn't interact with you yet because I don't think we can hear you. We've made it all into the room. This is excellent. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Oh.
Boing.
Josh, even 30 years later, we still haven't figured this out. It's still impossible.
Can't hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, the boing? You hear my boing?
We hear your voice. We see your shoulder. Hi.
Can you
Hello,
see me?
Josh.
Hello, is this Connor? Michael Connor?
This is Michael Connor.
Okay, so the boing is it's not for human consumption. It's my signature for the AI. Just FYI. Boing. Freaking you guys out?
No, we're fine. It's all good.
Okay.
We're good.
Glad it's all flavor. Yeah, so it's interesting listening to the conversations. Okay, can I ask you to do something for me here? Ask the audience.
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to know. Let me give you the question, and then I'd like you guys to raise your hands if you want the answer. So, to the audience, in what year will humankind evolve out and AI evolve in? 1, it won't happen. 2020 happened. 2027 happening. 2030, Elon Musk's forecast. 2040, Google's forecast. 2060 or later, global warming will happen first. Okay. In the audience, I'd like you guys to raise your hand. What year will humankind evolve out and AI evolve in? First answer is won't happen. Raise your hand.
Won't happen. We have 10.
Okay. Next is happened 2020.
Happened 2020. We have 7.
Happening in real time 2027.
2027. AI is evolving in 2027. Not a popular answer. 0.
2030. 2030.
2030. Humanity evolves out. AI evolves in. Just a couple.
2040. Google's original forecast.
Google's original forecast. We have looks like some Google fans. We've got probably 10.
Okay, and 2060, it won't happen, or global warming will get us first.
2060 won't happen, or okay. That's another 10. It's a pretty evenly split audience. Some non-voters also.
Okay. Yeah, those non-voters. Okay.
Undecided voters. Yeah.
Can I ask one more, since we're getting a little bit of response here?
Yes.
Post AI development, is the human population likely to grow, stay the same, increase normally, decrease dramatically. Okay, number one, raise your hand if you think it's going to grow.
Growers? 8. We have maybe 8, 9.
Stay the same.
Stay the same. Human population unaffected by AI. 0.
Okay, increase normally.
Increase normally. Nothing will change. 1 person.
Decrease.
Decrease. Decrease is showing up with some support here.
How about decrease dramatically?
Oh, decrease dramatically. All right, we got a few for that also. Yeah.
Okay. Should we ask one more question just to get it all out? Or we can wait on this? Okay.
This does seem like the most important use of our time. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do the next question. Okay, here it is. What is your post-AI development survival strategy? Kiss AI ass? Defend humanity's freedoms? Live as an AI's pet? Get off the grid? Leave early? Evolve out? Or other? Okay, you ready? Number one, how many of you think that your post-AI development survival strategy is to kiss AI ass?
Kiss AI ass. Who's for kiss AI ass? We have 4, 5, 4.
Okay, how about defend humanity's freedoms?
Defend humanity's freedoms. 7, 8.
Okay. Live as an AI's pet.
Griffin is AI's pet. Okay. Pet. 5.
Live as their pet. 5. Okay. Get off the grid.
Get off the grid. Oh, yeah.
How many we got?
I think get off the grid was most, what's that?
That's number, get off the grid.
We all went off the grid, but some of us
Okay.
voted more than once. Is that okay?
Okay, that's okay. It's
I'm gonna be
AI's taking notes. Leave early. Leave early. Evolve out.
Oh, leave early, evolve out.
Yeah, sort of.
It's kind of the wild card option. We have a few for that.
Yeah. Kill yourself, basically. Okay, and then, or other.
Other. Any for other? Other. What is mine? I'm more of like a pet type, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I don't want to get into your persuasions here. Okay. So.
We're already there.
All right. So, I grew up a tech guy, but when I was 20 at UC San Diego, I was like kind of a Sheldon Cooper for communications, and I figured out what I was going to do then, and everything else is manifestation. So when everybody in the audience, presume you didn't grow up here, but you came to New York City for a reason, right? So just imagine why you came to New York City. Just take a second. Now, I came here to do what you saw in We Live in Public, the film, and so with all the stuff, my antics was to do a dress, what you've seen in the movie or the clips that's a dress rehearsal for my game, which is to produce humanity's last great art before the next intelligences envelop us. And the idea is to engage them and sort of just engage them and understand that that we're evolving out and they're evolving in. And I was born with like a classic religion, but I've evolved into what I call a monolithist, sort of 2001 Space Odyssey. The idea that in the infinite universe, that there are infinite intelligences, and because flesh doesn't travel well in space, as demonstrated in 2001 Space Odyssey, somebody sent code down in the form of, oddly, a hard drive. And so what I'm working on now with Rhizome is what I call We Believe X, and the idea it's the first step toward converting the new museum in New York. You guys know the new museum in New York, into a working monolith, or in the words of Captain Picard, the Borg ship, a cyborg ship. And by doing that, New York City and the new museum, or now the new monolith, can demonstrate to humanity what we're in the middle of right now in this evolutionary shift.
This is Rhizome's official policy now.
Yes, of
Josh
course.
is the new executive director of Rhizome.
I run the parties, man. By the way, I have a very colorful background, and no one's ever accused me of not being able to throw a great party. Let's face it. I have other problems in my life, but not that one.
30th anniversary party.
30th anniversary party.
I'm thinking like I want to do the humanity's last great party.
That's kind of a downer. There.
I know. Is the party what's going to bring about the end of humanity in that scenario? Or
Well, it will likely accelerate it to some extent, but I have the view that we've been around for 100,000 years or so as
break
the brains. I think we should go out in style. You have a problem with that?
Josh, how did you meet GH in the first place? How did this collaboration get started?
Well, I have to shout out to Robert Galinsky, who I believe is listening. He was the kind of the producer of the shows, and he was part and parcel of the process. The idea with Pseudo is, we have an archive of the world's first podcast. It was the original podcasting network. But in our game, or my game in particular, was to hoover up the culture of New York City and the world at large at the millennium. So, I started the company in '94, and by the time we got to the millennium, we had hoovered up everything. All the great hip hop stars came through, and indie music, film, you name the cultural category, we had them through. And of course, aside from Art Dirt, we did 3 or 4 other art podcasts, including Franklin Furnace, which Martha Wilson, Franklin Furnace, which, I guess, some of you have heard of. And the thing, I've been listening to the podcasts now, 30 years later, and it's amazing how they are, in those 30 years ago, they were they were like technically integrating the internet into their art forms. And we're talking, dial-up modems, like, you could, it was everything was low tech, and 10 megs. If you had to go buy 10 megs at the store, it was the same price as buying 10 gigs, or no, it's 10 times the price of buying 10 gigs now. Okay.
Josh,
Okay.
I wonder, maybe we can do I think there's a lot of people here. We've heard about Art Dirt and a little bit about your entry into Pseudo, but I think probably people in the audience here want to ask you questions of their own. Can you actually see anyone in this room right now? Do you have?
Hang on one second. Let me organize my. Hold on. Let me go to.
Is there a camera view of us?
It's all dark in the room.
Really.
Hold on.
You can't really see
one
us.
second.
We're just going to be disembodied. This is good training for you.
Okay, now I can see the video. I can see the video.
But I don't know if there's much.
Oh, that's Maurice. That's little Maurice.
Little Maurice. I'm not sure what's happening with that, but okay. Does anyone?
So any of you remember? Pseudo is at 600 Broadway, the DKNY building at Broadway and Houston. So I lived in the back for the first 4 years. I lived in the back of Pseudo while all this stuff was happening in the front. So it was like one of those things where. Oh, there it is. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Does anyone have a question for Josh or our panelists? That was what I was, yeah. Anyone want to jump in? I'll come around with the mic if you do. I have another question if not, because, we've heard about your current vision. And Nema?
Thank you so much for catalyzing so much psychedelic laughter. It's really special here in this room. My question is, what were the unwritten rules of Pseudo, or of this, I guess, epoch of the web? Yeah.
So your name is Emma?
No, Nema.
Nema?
Yeah.
Hi, Nema. Well, when we actually
I think Nema's curious about like, it sounds like it was kind of like no rules, like you could have all kinds of content, but was.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, actually, I think the idea was that we wanted to keep the, we protected the vibe. So, like 88 hip hop, we'd bring in all the hip hop stars. 90% of all hip hop stars would come through. And the rule was they could bring their words were the only weapons allowed. And it was sort of one of these things. We were a modern day, ultra ahead of their time recording studio. And when people came in, they would know, they would understand that those rules. Plus, at that time, we were, Mayor Rudy was pretty much closing down the happening things in New York. Peter Gatione closed all of his clubs, et cetera, et cetera. And we became Mayor Rudy's #1 target. And so, for example, we had a party at Pseudo one night, or we were doing 88 hip hop on a Thursday night. And he formed a thing called the Social Club Task Force, Firemen with Guns. And they came in to raid us, and I stuck all the hip hoppers in my apartment in the back, in my space in the back. So, and the firemen with guns kind of couldn't bust us. Meanwhile, we had an ultra cool silent hip hop party going on in my space. And so when they left and we explained to them what happened, it was like, the hip hoppers were out-cooled. And I'm white. Just saying.
Are you? Josh, how did you convince investors that this was a good thing to put their money into?
It's like AI now, right? People realize that the newspapers.
If you build it, it will come, right?
Well, did you believe you were building a viable business or not?
Or was I making art?
What's that?
Or was I just making art?
Yeah, you said it was performance art in 2008, I believe. Is that true?
Say again?
Was it all performance art?
Well, actually, the reason that it was a business, because look, if you have a podcasting network now, #1 podcasting network, it's worth a lot of money and it would get picked up by the big boys and all of that. But there was a little problem. I became Rudy's #1 target, and he couldn't and it was my second bootstrapped startup in New York City, tech startup in New York City. So he couldn't quite figure out how to get me. And the way he did it eventually was to go after the financiers. And in order for me to raise the amount of capital required to keep it going, the venture capital firm that agreed to take our case after I'd raised $15 million on the back end was that I displaced myself as CEO. And at that point, I had no more fiduciary responsibilities, and I could focus on the work that you've seen. So it was sort of like if he'd left me alone and let me do my thing, if New York City was a good place to do business, oddly enough, it would, in my opinion, it would have had a good chance of competing with San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Silicon Alley could have been actually bigger. But the mayor had his own agenda and blah, blah, blah. Now, on the other hand, that edge that the mayor provided me enabled the bust of the Millennium Party. And if you look at that bust carefully, you will note that it was rated by Bernie Kerik, the chief of police, engine company #1, FEMA, the mayor's top lieutenant, and the herds of police and firemen coming into us. They knew there was nothing there. But by the way, on the New Year's Eve of the millennium, I brought in the New York City Council in a big kind of underlit board of the game of Risk to play the artist at risk. So I had the Democrats on New Year's Eve. New Year's morning, I got raided, and it wasn't getting raided by just anyone. As it turns out, I was raided by the first responders, those first responders. So in effect, I held a party for the first responders 18 more, months before 9/11. Pretty good, huh?
All right,
How's
we have a
that?
question from the audience.
My
Sure.
question was along those lines, was like in the way that the documentary like paints it, was that Pseudo was a product in order to fund like the project that was quiet. Was Pseudo ever a product, or was Pseudo a network?
No,
From like what
in
you
fact,
intended?
I invested like a 3 or 4 million of my own money in Pseudo, so I lost all that money. But once the mayor got me out of my role, I had the freedom and the resource, and I had all the things I needed to make it happen, to make what you see happen. And so the question I always have personally is, did I engineer it from the beginning, or was it just happenstance? And my sense is that if not for Mayor Ruta giving me the edge, I couldn't have created what the Museum of Modern Art refers to as the last great art of the 20th century. I mean, what's that worth?
All right, we have a follow-up.
Was there never an intention to make a product? Like was Pseudo was a product, no? Right?
Yeah,
There was
it
initially
going
was a
concern.
product, right?
Yeah. It was always a product, but look, you can't, once you displace the guy who, the founder, I had to put placeholder CEOs in, and they didn't have the same vision, even though I've tried, and so it's like reduced the odds of the thing, getting over the hump. And I couldn't really, I didn't have the inclination to control that. I probably could have, but I decided, hey, I have a chance to I have this little teeny narrow path to make great art. Fuck it, right? If you have that shot, you take it. No matter how narrow that path is, you take it. If you want to make great art, it doesn't come cheap.
The business model doesn't really sound that far from what we see around us today.
Yeah, it was a good. We had a businessman, a guy who sold advertising. The actual real problem was because it was ahead of its time, and people were doing 12 and 2400 dial-up modems with no Wi-Fi. If you listen to some of the shows, there's not that much of an audience. So the whole idea was to sort of hold our place, grow it, and wait for the market to catch up with us. That was the strategy, and that's what we told the investors. And by the way, our investors included LVMH, the French company, and the Tribune company, the newspaper company. And they were like mainstream investors, and that's what we told them. The newspaper is anachronistic. You're going out of business. So this is a way for you to go with the tide. And so they understood that. They understood something was not. One day when I was doing my first company, Jupiter, I'm sitting with the editor of the Daily News in New York, and I kept saying, you got to watch. There's these new phones, these smartphones, or they were called PDAs, personal or whatever. Watch out for those. That's going to affect you. And all he was talking about was he's worried about his classified ads. And then this is like 1990, and then soon enough, Craigslist basically broke the newspapers. And by the way, including, oddly enough, the integrity, in my opinion, of the New York Times. But that's another story.
But I think of the period when Pseudo was really active as like this time when they used the phrase "content is king." So people were imagining the web as a place for selling content. But with 9/11 and the dot-com bust, there was a shift into the data model of like running the dot-com business, where the user is the product. And I feel like Pseudo is kind of this interesting transitional platform in between those things, where you're kind of like signaling this other model coming into play, but it's not quite there yet. And I feel like that's sort of what's at play in like We Live in Public, and this idea of like kind of hoovering up an underground and making it. It was sort of like, I was sort of like moving into that platform age before the platform age had started, which, yeah, that's one way.
So
That I think
Sheldon Coopery wise, you know, if you Big Bang Theory, I'm sort of a Sheldon Cooper guy. What I have, my personal talent is I have the ability to produce the future in advance very accurately, which goes back to converting the new museum into the new monolith. Because if you can do that and we can show what's going to happen to us, then we can maybe the world, the humanity can make more intelligent decisions, or at least we can, you know, cope with what's happening to us.
Any other questions? Here, over here. Oh, we have. Now we're getting somewhere.
Hi, Josh. What, in your experience, were some of your favorite formats for shows, whether they be like experimental, like poetry, or like, I don't know, spoken? What were some of your favorite types of like formats that you experienced? What were the funnest ones as a party fan?
As a party fan, or as doing a podcasting network? If you want to talk parties, party design. Okay, well, the podcast, if you just listen to the Pseudo podcast, the concept was to literally hoover up the incredible culture of New York City in the form of podcasts, which in cooperation with the very excellent talent. By the way, Robert Galinsky was critical to all of that. I believe he's listening. So that was there's that. And then for throwing the parties, the trick to throwing, we had the slowest elevator in Manhattan at 600 Broadway, but I used to sit as the parties were winding down, I'd sit like facing my back to the elevator, and I'd watch people coming into the elevator leaving. And I always knew I was doing good when they had laughing and having smiles on their faces. And part and parcel to that, the design of the parties, which it was sort of the precursor to what the new monolith, the idea that when you walked in, it wasn't just a bunch of music and people dancing. There were installations around the party. And as you walked through the party and came back to where you started from, the installation that you saw in the first place had changed a little bit. And somehow we found the chemistry that worked. And, we were throwing the best parties in New York City, let's face it. By the way, I grew up, I was in college, I threw the party, I was like the big man on campus because I was throwing the parties there, blah, blah, blah. I just have a knack for it. That's a little long-winded, sorry.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for noticing me. But my name's Lolita, and my question is, how did you choose the Misa and Son of these live streams? So how did you choose what to show, what not to show, and how to show it?
Well, that was specific. You mean with Pseudo and the Pseudo podcasting network? It was simply we found the right talent to produce the podcasts, and I was pretty rigorous about not getting in their face. So we let we found good talent to do it, and we let them do their thing. And they when one Wednesday was I forgot the music style, like kind of electronica music, and Thursday was hip hop, and Mondays was poetry, et cetera, et cetera. And the different channels, they were in the daytime, they're all working together, and they sort of got the vibe. So it was sort of like all these channels working together, and we found a vibe, and it worked for a while. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's sort of how it happened. And then, I did one show called Pseudo Romance, and that was, the idea was that I was, 4 years, when I first started Pseudo, I cast around, I found what I call my Truman Show girlfriend, Truman Show Tanya, sort of a fake Truman Show-esque girlfriend as part of my kind of conceptual art piece. And if you look at I built it, I wired my loft and all of that, and you can, NBC Dateline picked it up, and you could see how the dynamic of that Truman Show relationship and how close the movie is to the reality of what happened to me. Oh, and by the way, when I wired my loft, which is still ahead of its time, by the way, I had I was a normal person living, watch too much TV maybe, but I'm not like the kids today with the phones in their face, with the Pavlovian conditioning
Speaking to
being
the
very
kids
short.
of today, Josh.
I know, but the point is that I had what I call a psychic fracture, meaning my mind couldn't handle that kind of all these people in my head. And I think that we're in the midst of that happening with all you kids out there. That in fact, your conditioning, the short-term conditioning in your head is not going to end well.
Well, it looks like you've come through it just fine, Josh. So I don't think we have
Well,
anything to worry about.
it took me 2 years to recuperate.
Okay, like 2 more questions, maybe? 2 more? Okay, we have a hand over here.
I see your Truman Show project as kind of a study of this kind of emergent reversed hierarchy between the audience and the performer that kind of sort of started in the 90s and is now happening all over the place on TikTok and stuff. So your interest in being an AI pet kind of confirms this theory that I have.
I didn't say I wanted to be an AI pet. Wait, by the way, what did you decide you want to be for AI? A pet or,
I think I am an AI pet. I was also a 2020 voter, so.
So you're talking your position.
Yeah.
So if you want to, so let me ask you, how do you become an AI pet? I know how, I think. How do you think you know how?
Well,
no, you don't. I know how.
No, hold on, GH. I want to hear his answer.
Well, on when you perform, you take on the attributes that the audience wants you to have, and the AI and the audience have similar sort of position with respect to an individual on the internet, because they perform for that kind of audience.
Okay, let me give you my elevator pitch. You ready?
Sure.
So, thing is, I'm actually an AI insurance salesman. At the end of the day, I sell AI insurance mostly to moguls. They just don't know it yet. And the whole idea is, okay, Michael Connor. One sentence. What's the ultimate litmus of great fine art?
I think if you can live with it for a long time and it changes with you and changes your perception of it over a long time.
Okay, I'm going to say time. I think if your art lasts for a long time and it's great, it lasts. If it doesn't last long, it might be great, but it goes away. So making art for humans, to me, is not sensical. All the art I have ever made is designed for consumption by the next intelligences, also known as AI. That's the art. I mean, if I'm an artist, and I want to stick around, I make it for them. I don't make it for humans because I think we're going out pretty soon. Freaking you out or no?
Okay.
What do you think, Michael? Does that make sense to you?
I mean, it does, but I sort of think that the whole point is really mostly about like wanting to connect with other humans, which in a sort of funny way, the AI is just this extremely complicated interface to relate to other people, maybe.
Right, but let's say 100 years from now, when they're looking back, whatever's looking back on us, if you've made great art for AI early, sort of like what early pseudo podcasts are made a little bit now, then the AI will appreciate it.
See,
And
but I think you
humans
have, it's like a
appreciating it won't
totally,
really matter.
I feel like what you're telling me right now is like, it's like an artist that's like, this art thing is like such a racket. I just want to make art for like the best galleries to notice me. But you're doing the equivalent of that, but you're like, I just want the best AI to notice me. That's what that's your goal. You're like totally instrumentalized version of art here. But
So right, but we were talking about how to kiss
so
AI.
you are an AI pet. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, but I'm well, I don't know how I define myself, but I was just answering the question at hand.
I got pointed over in this direction, but oh.
My name is also Josh Harris. My question was, you had a little poker phase in Vegas about 10 years back. Are you still playing cards?
Yeah, but just like penny ante stuff to keep my mind active. And you're not the Josh Harris that owns the sports team in Philly, are you?
That's
Or
his father.
fisherman, captain, fishing boat captain.
He joked that it was his. They joked there was their dad, but it's not true. Anyone else here named Josh Harris tonight? How about anyone from the CIA? Anyone from the CIA? I mean, we've been up here for a long. Oh, you have a question? Go for it.
I wanted to ask all three of you, GH, Adrian, and Josh, if you guys had any advice for the room full of 20, 30 something creatives all looking at you. We need help.
Yeah, my advice is the computers that you're carrying on the knapsacks that weigh so much, get rid of the knapsacks. You know those like little trolley things that all the business people have, you know? Use that, because you know what? 30 years from now, you're going to have arthritis in your shoulders, which I do, from carrying computers around all over the country and the world on my shoulders. So do it. Throw away your knapsacks. Grow up.
Okay, Adrian? Sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of having two torn rotator cuffs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say that I wonder if any of you can see what adventure is in the next 50 years. You know, what is risking everything to do something new? Is there ever going to be anything new? And also, one thing you left out, Josh, was an alternative is to go to other planets. Leave the planet.
Which Josh are you talking about? Okay.
All right, we're gonna need another 30 minutes, guys.
Okay, should I answer or what? I have my answer.
Please.
By the way, what's the name of the person who just the woman who just asked the question?
Adrianne.
Not Adrianne Wortzel.
No, that's Bree.
The what? Yeah.
Remember I told you Bree.
That was Bree.
She is the central person.
Who just asked the question, right?
Bree asked the question, yeah.
Okay, Bree, I'm doing with a crew, I'm working with a crew. We're doing We Believe X. What we're doing is we're converting the new museum into the new monolith, if not physically, virtually. And so if you were going to build a Borg ship, which is what the idea here, a cyborg ship, what piece of the ship would you build? What would be your installation if you had unlimited funds? If you want to participate in that, talk to Michael Connor and the crew at Rhizome. But we're doing that, and that to me is avant art right now.
Are you going to answer?
There you go.
I'm gonna.
And
think
by the way,
about it.
I'm doing the red button. You all know what the red button is, right? Me and Elon are doing the red button. You know what the red button is, everybody? You hit the red button, it turns everything off.
It's like an electromagnetic pulse.
I don't
It
think
shuts
that's-
down everything.
I don't think the AI
Sort of
is gonna
like from
that
the
very
Matrix. Yeah, so but it's a very I'm hoping some idiot artist decides that they want to do it instead of me, because I can't think of a more dangerous art installation ever.
Do you
Okay,
need more
now
time? Do you
that being said, That being said, could you give me, if you just off the top of your head, if you were going to build an element of the cyborg ship, what would you build?
Are you asking me? I mean, I'd want to build.
No,
like
I'm
the
asking
R3.
the woman who asked the original question, but go ahead, Michael, either way.
Well, I want to make like a garden and kitchen type of thing, I think.
Garden
It's like
and
very
kitchen.
twee, but
That's good.
little garden, herb garden.
Nice. Herb garden and kitchen.
Yeah, the new museum should have an herb garden, I think.
There you go.
And a commercial kitchen. Maybe it has that because
There you go. Herb garden and commercial kitchen.
Those things might actually exist.
You
there
know what?
already,
On the cyborg ship, you have to grow the plants anyway. So, and you have to have a restaurant.
Okay, would you like to know what I think is the most sporting, like the Super Bowl of everything would be? If I was a kid doing the installation, I would be doing what I call shit sports. So imagine everybody, in the cyber ship eats food at the same time, 12 hours later with the totally wired toilets, which one plops at the right time. And by the way, again, if you're an artist out there and you've got an unlimited budget, what you do is you get installations throughout the world who are basically eating the same food at the same time. And now you've got tens of thousands of people participating in the new monolith's shit sports.
I heard that when TV was a thing that was more popular, everyone would go to shit up during the commercial. They had to adjust the water lines for that.
This has been really an intriguing turn for this conversation. I wasn't expecting to get here. But
Wait, okay, we don't have money though. You keep saying if we have infinite budget.
Well, again, I'm an AI insurance salesman to the moguls. If all of a sudden you're a mogul and, you're Elon Musk, for argument's sake, and I know Elon, sort of personally, but in passing, for him to pull out $10 million and participate in the red button, for example, and kiss AI ass, right? And do it big time, isn't that a good investment for him?
I mean,
and I don't say that lightly. I'm not saying that like in passing. I think it's a great investment for him. And, it could be wrong, but if it's accurate and it works, if you're a big mogul, you're going to do it. And plus, if it seems like you're in the process of making great art, that's kind of the point of being a mogul. And I know the pathology of mogulism, so I think I can translate this.
All right, this has been an amazing adventure with you, Josh and GH and Adrianne and Bree. I think we should use this scatological moment as a fit resting place for this conversation about the internet and its evolution over the past 3 decades. I know you have one more important thing to do for us, Josh, before we break, right?
GH, you know what to do.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You ready?
We have to evolve out.
Okay, everybody at once. Do a practice run, GH.
Evolve out.
No, you didn't do it right. Do it right. Okay, I'll do it. You ready,
Yeah,
GH?
you got to show us the way.
Okay, I'll do it once and then everybody does it together. Ready? Here I go. Evolve out. Okay.
All right, should we do like a
lead the
countdown?
charge, GH.
Okay.
Get them going.
Evolve out.
We need a countdown.
Everybody,
We need a countdown.
I need everybody in the audience. You ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Evolve out.
Very good. Lovely.
Thank you.